I was very proud of that Ultimate X match. I think people look at that as the bar of the Ultimate X match. And you don't realize you're doing something special until you look back on it and say, wow, that was a special moment. I didn't even know I was living in that moment at the time. Yeah, I decided to become a pro wrestler. My initial excitement was probably, I don't know, like I was 6 years old. I said, I want to do this when I'm older. I know some people are like, when they're 6 years old, maybe their parents are doctors or something. I want to be a doctor. I want to follow in that footstep. Everybody has their own reason. I was so infatuated with what I was seeing on that television set that I was like, I want to be that when I'm older. And then life goes on. I'm still watching it. I'm really excited about pro wrestling, and yeah, I want to do that when I'm older. That's a dream of mine, kind of like winning the lottery. That's just a dream I aspire to be. I never really wanted to be anything else. I mean, I had a couple things in mind, but you know, I'd go through school and stuff, and I wanted to be a pro wrestler. I'd look forward to watching it, read everything about it. You know, pre-internet, so you had to really dig for information and stuff. You know, I remember my one buddy, my best friend, he's like, why do you watch that? I remember him saying that. Why do you watch that? Why do you like it? And I didn't know how to answer that. I didn't know what I liked about it. I loved it. And I think right around, you know, the Attitude Era, all of a sudden that friend of mine that said pro wrestling is silly, all of our other friends that were around us, including him, was like, wow, pro wrestling's cool. And then that's what made me get back into it and made me become a fan again. At around 17 years old, when pro wrestling was at its height, all my friends wanted to be pro wrestlers too. You know, we're like, hey, let's build a ring. You know, it never ended up happening, but you know, start making storylines. We were like, everything we could do to watch pro wrestling or become part of it, that's what we were doing. And then with me, they weren't serious, obviously. I was serious, you know, and my one buddy said, hey, we got to start working out. And I was like, working out, takes a lot of time and effort. But yeah, I want to be a pro wrestler, so I guess I got to start working out. So we go to the gym together. We work out. He showed me the ropes and stuff like that. We were kind of like the blind leading the blind at the gym. And you know, after about a year or so, I don't know, he gave up. He stopped going to the gym. But I've been going ever since I was 17 years old, right? I mean, almost 20 years now. And I just didn't look back. And then 2 years later, when I was 19, I went to my first professional wrestling class at Scott D'Amore School. And my first bump, I remember that next day, man, I remember it hurt so bad. I didn't think it was gonna be that tough. I really didn't. I mean, the pros on TV make it look so easy, and it's really not. Even though you study it your whole life, thinking like, yeah, I could do that, I could do that. No, I mean, you gotta be professionally trained. So I remember the next day, all these muscles right here, when I went to the gym, I couldn't even lay back on the bench press. I had to like grab my head and lower it down on the bench press because these were just all shot. It's pretty much like having whiplash, like getting in a car accident. That's essentially what you're doing. So I mean, I was in pain for days, but I remember, you know, the guys at the school that I met along the way, like guys like Chris Sabin, and Alex Shelley, Rhino. He was already, you know, off working ECW, WWE, stuff like that, but he'd show up. Those were the first guys that were there with me. I know Chris Sabin, he was already trained before he came to the school. Same with Alex Shelley. They had other trainers, but they really like solidified and worked on their technique and stuff and all that kind of stuff through D'Amore's direction pretty much. I remember Scott D'Amore was not only a good trainer, but he understands how the business works, and he's not gonna try to steer you in any bad direction or do anything like that. I remember when I started when I was 19, I was in school. You know, I was going to our local college. I was going there for law enforcement. It was called Law and Security and Police Foundations and stuff like that. And Scott wouldn't really, he said, yeah, you know, work local shows on weekends, but you need to get your degree, you need to get your diploma, you need your college, you need your school, because wrestling's not gonna last forever, and you need something to fall back on. And in 2004, he said, hey, we're gonna do this Team Canada thing. and it was February of 2004. The first Team Canada was a little bit different. I mean, I got put in there by accident, and I think Scott D'Amore did too. I don't think they had him lined up as the primary leader of Team Canada, but they know they wanted Teddy Hart. You know, he's a Hart, that's Canada pride. He was going to be the captain. They were high on Johnny Devine. They knew Johnny Devine was going to be in the group. Jack Evans, really good talent, but Teddy Hart kind of vouched for him, like, hey, he needs to be on our team. He's Canadian, even though Jack's not Canadian, but he was married to a Canadian, so I don't know what happened there. And they wanted the British Bulldog's son on that. You know, Harry Smith couldn't make it. So they're like, well, you know, I remember Scott telling me he pitched the idea to TNA, and they said, well, I got this guy, you know, really good talent. His name's Petey Williams. He's kind of small, you know, but, you know, that's X Division. And I remember he described me to Jeff Jarrett as, imagine you put Buff Bagwell in a dryer, and then when he came out, you know, he's smaller, but at the same time learn how to work. And I was like, oh man, that's brutal that he said that. But they were like, all right, I'm sold, you know. So I did my thing down there, and that was that. I thought that was it. You know, I got some exposure on TV and stuff, but I think what really nailed it was prior to the pay-per-view, we were filming some X Cup stuff. So we all had single matches, and the first singles match out was Mr. Aguila versus Teddy Hart, and Teddy Hart on the last move hurt his knee. And then I was the next match against Juventud. And when I came to the back, since Teddy was hurt, he was supposed to be on the first match on the live pay-per-view against Jerry Lynn and Juventud, and he couldn't perform. They said, Petey, get with Jerry Lynn and Juventud, you're taking Teddy's spot. I had 15 minutes to prepare. So this is make or break. You don't even have time to think. I'm like, I'm either gonna do it or I'm not. So I went out there, nailed it, and I remember like Abyss coming up to me and he says, man, if you put me in that position, I don't think I could have performed as well as you did. So that meant a lot to me from one of, you know, somebody I looked up to and respect to say that to me. And Terry Taylor, when I came back, because they had to have Canada win that one for storyline purposes. And it was actually the first time anybody's ever seen me on TV, like, who's this guy? And then I get to the back and Terry Taylor goes, welcome to the company, kid. Kind of smiling. So after we were done that, they called me back, I think in March of 2004, just for like a six-man type match, X Division. And then a month or two went by, then they said, you know, we're doing this World X Cup thing. And then they said there's gonna be a new Team Canada. He says, Petey, you're gonna be the captain. And it's gonna be Johnny Devine. And then that's when they said we're gonna have Eric Young and Bobby Roode. And that was the new Team Canada.
Being led by Scott D'Amore. They are Team Canada. Well, there's no question in my mind. The team captain, Petey Williams, leading the way.
The day I became X Division champion for the first time, I recall getting to the building and asking what I was doing. And they say, you're doing Gauntlet for the gold. Okay. And they said, the last four will be me, Amazing Red, and Frank Kazarian and Michael Shane. And Michael Shane and Kazarian were co-champions at the time.
Well, that initial confusion over Kazarian and Michael Shane as co-champs, that's what forced the hand of the Director of Authority, Vince Russo. A new X Division title holder to be crowned tonight.
And I said, well, you know, when am I getting eliminated? Like, who's going over? And they said, you're winning the X Division title tonight, kid. And I think it was Jerry Lynn that told me that, because he might have been the agent of that match. I was like, I didn't even know what to say. I was like, what? Like, okay. Like, I don't even think I had my full work visa yet, to tell you the truth.
From Team Canada, Petey Williams. He's the captain of Team Canada and the man behind that.
So I remember getting out there, and then, you know, it came down to me and Amazing Red.
Who's gonna go for that flip pile driver? Red reversed it. He got it. Red from the top.
Oh, I remember there was some sort of distraction. Red got hit with a hockey stick.
Oh wait, Scott D'Amore just caught Red again.
You know, I hit the Canadian Destroyer, and the crowd hated
Red
it.
is gonna get, oh no, the Canadian Destroyer.
Oh, he spiked Red, dropped him on his head. Petey the cover.
No.
We're Canadians in Nashville, Tennessee, and they hated us, man. We had so much heat. They just hated it. So it was great. I'm like, okay, I got this belt now. Like, now what? And, I feuded with Red for a little bit until it was my time to essentially feud with the X Division guy at the time, AJ Styles. Being able to get to the point where we got, I know he looked at it as like kind of like a father leading his son, and that's how I looked up to him.
He's phenomenal, and he's going for his unprecedented fourth X Division title.
Yeah, working with AJ, I mean, man, he's on another level. I mean, he was the poster boy, the guy, the X Division, always the center point of TNA. Our first pay-per-view was Victory Road, it was called. So we had a good build-up, AJ and I. All the promotional stuff and everything, and you see the posters and then the build-up and everything. AJ was plastered all over it. And I'm thinking in my head, like, well, people know what the outcome of this is going to be. They're just building me up as a champion to get, their guy that they want, the belt back on him. And I was okay with that. I'm like, there'll be other opportunities and stuff. And then I remember getting to Victory Road that day, and our first ever monthly pay-per-view. That's such a big deal for us. And they said, you're beating AJ today. I'm like, wait, so I'm like, he's all over everything of your stuff. I'm nowhere to be seen, and you want me to beat your top guy? I'm like, well, it's good that they got that swerve because everybody's expecting AJ to win, so maybe that's what they were going for. Or maybe they just wanted AJ to chase the title for a little bit longer and build me up even more. So I remember that match. I mean, the match wasn't a 5-star match. I didn't feel, but it felt that way because of the crowd. And I remember being out there and, the dueling chants of let's go AJ, let's go Petey. I mean, we really never had that in the Impact Zone before.
You can see the crowd right now.
And I remember saying, this is pretty incredible. And at the time, I'm so young. Like, I didn't stop and like, enjoy the moment. Like, just everything stopped or went by so fast.
Petey doesn't realize that there he comes, and he catches him. There he goes. Unbelievable. Oh, look at this.
And he's singing the Canadian national anthem now.
Oh, wow, but again, look at that ability. Look at that move by Petey Williams.
My perspective in wrestling and life has just changed so much since 2004 when I was so young. But that match, I remember, was incredible.
Oh! Canadian Destroyer.
He hit it.
One,
Hit it on
two,
AJ.
no!
He keeps the title. Petey Williams keeps the title belt. D'Amore gets to stay in TNA.
We get to the back afterwards, and I remember hugging Scott, and, essentially we were crying because I remember Scott always saying to me, like, Petey, you're a great worker, but like you're a small guy. I know your heart's there and stuff like that, but and just to be able to be under Scott D'Amore's wing and him being able to help guide me and be my support system and being able to get to the point where we got, I know he looked at it as like kind of like a father leading his son, and that's how I looked up to him. Yeah, so we were sitting there after the match and just, I mean, we're grown men, but we're crying just because it's not the outcome of the match or anything like that, or titles or anything like that. It was just the path that led us there, and the history, and how, just the accomplishment. I know he was so proud of me, and I was so grateful for him, and it was just a good moment. And then I remember the rest of Team Canada coming over, like Bobby Roode and Eric, and Bobby saying like, man, I gotta leave, man. You guys are a-holes. You guys are making me cry now. And he takes off, So it was a really, really good moment at that time in my career. Yeah, no, AJ, and I remember he actually helped me solidify the Canadian Destroyer move. He came up to me and he was like, I want to take that move. Like, that's a kind of thing AJ, that's the kind of person AJ is. Like, he sees a challenge, something that looks so devastating. Remember, it's new, and people are afraid of that move. Now people are lining up, like, behind me to take it, right? Especially like, oh, I want to take it from the original. So AJ was like, yeah, I want to do it. I think I can make that look good. He's always up to challenges like that. And he always made it look great for me. And that's what kind of person he is. He's so unselfish. And like, you know with him, the more he gives, the more he gets in return. And that's the way wrestling should be. I'm like, why do I have such an ego? You know, I remember talking to Eric Young about this, and he said, man, stop walking around like so upset.
Strap your seatbelts on. It's time for the ultimate roller coaster ride known as Ultimate X.
Yeah, I was very proud of that Ultimate X match, Final Resolution of AJ, myself, and Chris Sabin. I think people look at that as the Ultimate X match, like the bar of what you need to do to surpass having a better Ultimate X match. And just two phenomenal workers I'm in there with. I remember reading reports that we've been working on that match for weeks. We really weren't. Like, we were trying to find AJ all day. I'm like, man, we need to get this thing together. We have, you know, what's going on. We had some ideas in our head.
Told the story many times, but let's just reiterate it again. Sabin and Williams trained together. For years, these two, when they broke into wrestling, it was under Coach Scott DeMore in his Pan Am Wrestling School.
AJ, though, coming in. Look at this. Wow.
He's in a very precarious position.
Oh, what a move right there by Sabin. You don't even know. Oh, man.
The overhead throw, that great spot. You're right, now springing up. Sabin and Styles.
Oh, wait a minute. Oh, what a move by Sabin. You've got to be kidding me.
It turned him inside out.
You know, we're doing the match, and they give you certain times of what, like, I think we had 20 minutes or something like that. And they're always giving you a countdown and times and stuff like that. And I remember the referee, when we're on the mat, saying something like 5 minutes or something like that. And I didn't hear him, and I said, what? How much time? And he goes, they said, don't worry about it. Don't worry about it? I'm like, are we really like doing something special right here? And you don't realize you're doing something special until you look back on it and say, wow, that was a special moment. I didn't even know I was living in that moment at the time.
You've got to be kidding. AJ using his string.
Sabin tried to go for the arm breaker. AJ maybe the clock.
Yes, he does.
So for them to say, don't worry about time, like, we'll take it off of the following match. Like, this is great what we have going on right now. We want to stay with this. Just, guys, keep on going and finish your match like you see fit. I remember I came up with a finish. I said, listen, this is what I think we should do for the finish. And this is what I was really proud of, because I thought it was great psychology, because it's hard to put psychology in those matches. It really is. Because, I mean, it's not, there's no pinfalls. The drama's going to be with climbing and all that stuff. So I said, you know, why don't we do this? Why don't we hurt AJ's arm?
Oh, good move there by Williams, just pulling AJ through. And pulling the torque on him right there.
I don't think we've seen this before in an Ultimate X match where they use those.
And then he goes to climb. He has us down. He goes to climb. He can't climb. Our top guy's in jeopardy. There's no way he's going to be able to win because he can't scale across. His arms destroy it. And I said, why don't Sabin and I go up there? And I was champion at the time. AJ was going to win the title. Sabin and I go up there. We both simultaneously take it down. We're hanging upside down. We're fighting for it.
Both men have got a grip on the belt.
And then AJ, he does a springboard and grabs it with his good arm. He didn't have to climb to win it. And I thought it was a brilliant idea. I won't mention any names, but some of the office people were like, I don't know, it makes AJ look weak. And I'm like, how does that make him look weak? It makes him look super smart that he used other... Anyways, I wasn't going to argue. But then they said, screw it, do the finish.
Look at this, the belt's down. It's a tug of war.
AJ Styles, knock it down. AJ Styles has got the belt. I've never seen anything like it.
I mean, I was so proud of that match. I didn't realize it at the time, but I look back on it now, and I'm like, wow, that was probably one of the best matches I've been involved in. But that was a turning point in my career too, because, you know, I think at the time now, I'm 24 years old. I'm a young kid, you know, after 6 weeks of being hired, you put the X Division title on me. You had me beat your top guy. And then I lose the X Division title. And I think I was, even though it's just a belt, it's just for show, but I'm like, this is good. This is gonna be good for my career because they established me. Now I could go on and do other things. But the next night, I was just like getting beat up. Like, you guys just spent like all this time and effort under me, and then you just threw it away. And I couldn't wrap my head around that. And, you know, I understand it's somebody else's time to shine, but I just couldn't. I'm like, you put so much time and effort. I don't understand. So I kind of got a little bitter after that. So, and that was another turning point in my career. I'm like, wow. I'm like, why do I have such an ego? You know, I remember talking to Eric Young about this, and he said, man, stop walking around like so upset. He's like, you're here, man. Remember, you worked so hard to get here. And so I kind of reevaluated myself again at that point, or for the first time in my wrestling career. I'm like, wow, man, I'm like, I've become something I said I would never be. And that was tough for me. And then, you know, I think it was very humbling as well, because I'm like, it can get to your head, you know, when they're, you know, pushing you to the top and stuff like that, and so quick, and so much happens for you in your career, and then nothing happens, and it seems like you're on the downside. But that's professional wrestling, and I didn't understand that. I was too young, I was too immature to understand that. The support system was great. I mean, the thing is with Team Canada, myself, Bobby Roode, and Eric Young, anytime any one of us succeeded, you know, we felt so happy for each other because we started at the same time. You know, Bobby even tells me, he's like, you know, I look at you as like a little brother, man. You know, just, I've grown so close to those guys, and I'm so happy for them right now and where they're at and stuff like that. And I'm sure, you know, if they're watching this, they're super happy for me and where I'm at in life, because I wouldn't change my path, anything, my time being fired by TNA, my time coming back, just my journey, like, I wouldn't change it all, because I know it just built me as a character and as a person, and it's been too much. It's just been great, and I never expected this out of my life, ever. My goal when I first started was to have one professional wrestling match in front of a live crowd. That was my goal. Look where we're at now.